Hey guys, Danny Johnson here, and today I'm going to tell you the story of my 2004 SVT Cobra in Screaming Yellow. They only made 299 coupes, so they were very hard to find, especially in good condition, and so I was very grateful to get this car, but it took a while to find it. I searched all over Auto Trader, I looked on forums, and a lot of them were too far away, and as you can imagine, a lot of them had a hard life too, being very fast cars, but I did find this one mint condition with a Whipple supercharger. So if you're a Mustang guy, that last clip will speak for itself. The sound of the V8, the sound of the blower, the Terminator, everything about it, you'll understand why I needed this car so bad. Now, my story with Mustangs began when my twin brother and I got to share a 1997 V6 Mustang Laser Red 5-speed, and we then got a second one. So we had matching twin Mustangs, but of course, being V6s, we wanted more power. And then later on, I got a Mustang GT, which I had to get rid of and finally got back. So I'll put the whole story to that in the video description. And then it was on to my Mach 1. And my Mach 1 had a story of its own, which was really good, and I'll put the link to that in the description too. But I really enjoyed this car, and it was one of my favorite colors, torch red, and very fast, very loud, and I still own and enjoy this car to this day. And my brother also has his blue one that we have a lot of fun in. Now, one of my first choices for a Terminator would be torch red, one of my favorite colors, and a 10th anniversary. I love the red seats and everything about it. My twin brother would end up getting one of these too, and we would put a TVS 2.65 liter blower on it, so that's a really nice setup that he has there, and I have full video installs and everything if you want to check the video description on that. But I thought, well, I already have a torch red Mach 1 and I can't really, sell it. I would want to have both. And so growing up, there was a yellow Mustang that was driving around a 1998 GT in chrome yellow, and it was an old lady with poofy white hair who would drive it. We called it the Granny GT. So as I would discuss colors with Justin and which one we should get and all that, what I should look for, the Granny GT came up a lot of yellow. And it was really cool because at one point we did get to meet up with her. I saw her over at the bank and we just pulled in and we jumped out and just had to talk to her. And she was thrilled to talk to us and very nice. So in 2003, Ford made the Terminator in zinc yellow, and then in 2004, they changed it to my favorite, Screaming Yellow. So I thought I will look for that one. I like the idea that it was a 2004, would have the 9-thread heads, which I later found out a lot of the 10th anniversaries came with 9-thread heads built at the end of '03, so I probably would have been good either way. But anyway, that's what I was going to look for. And so I was finishing up college at the time, and I really couldn't justify getting a Terminator until I was done with college and all of that. And so right as I was finishing up, I would be spending a lot of time in the classroom, and I had the itch, looking on the internet, trying to find Terminators for sale or something just to kind of get through the schoolwork. And I was a little frustrated, to tell you the truth, because the Terminator prices would not come down. And so I later understood, though, if I buy something that doesn't depreciate, it will always have value. So as I researched things, one of the biggest influences I had was Taxi. So check his channel out. I'll put a link to it in the description, My Taxi 1320. I absolutely loved following and watching his videos. And he was down in Las Vegas and does some really good racing. And so that car, the more I watched his videos and the more we went down to Vegas and would bump into him here and there, the more I really wanted to have a Screaming Yellow Cobra. So that's a car here that really, kind of motivated me as well. And I just love Las Vegas. I love the racing aspect of it and everything about it. So anyway, that was a huge influence to me. And so again, a lot of the Screaming Yellow Cobras, only $299 made. They were very hard to find, and there just weren't a lot of ads for them. But I did find one that came up in Las Vegas, and it didn't have a lot of information. It said, selling for a friend. This is a 2004 SVT Cobra. It has a Whipple supercharger, 600 horsepower, and listed a few of the mods, and that was about it. So luckily, I wrote the number down for that car, because we went down to Las Vegas to race at Midnight Mayhem and everything, and it started to rain on the track, and they canceled the event. So I went to Craigslist to pull up the number and say, hey, while we're down here, we might as well go look at that Terminator, and the ad was gone. But since I had saved the number, I had it in my phone, and I texted the guy, said, hey, do you still have the Cobra for sale? And 15 minutes later, so he responded, yeah, I have it, but I'm really not that interested in selling it, so I'm not sure if I'm going to sell it or not. So I said, well, can we at least look at it? And he didn't respond for a long time, so we went down to the casinos and kind of walked around, just kind of waited for his response, and finally he said, yeah, you can come see it if you want. And so we met up at a gas station, and when he showed up, that car was beautiful. It was the nicest new Edge Mustang I had ever seen. I sat behind the wheel, and just, the Cobra has a double wrapped, very thick steering wheel compared to the other new Edges, so it just felt different, and it felt really nose heavy. He didn't let me drive it that much, but I got to at least go around the gas station a little bit, and so I was kind of going back and forth, and I was like, wow, this is the nicest car that I have ever had. So I kind of showed him on my phone. I said, well, I'm looking at this Screaming Yellow one back east, and it was a 2.9-liter Whipple. The car that I was looking at here only had a 2.3 Whipple, and but it had, the other car back east had solid rear axle. The steering wheel was all gouged up from, it just looked like more of a rough car. But that guy was asking 22.5 or something, and so I said, would you match this price? Would you consider this? And he said, yeah, I could probably do that. So I remember getting out of the car, calling my wife over the phone, and walking around the gas station like, look, I just have to have this car. And so this would go on for a few months, kind of back and forth. We eventually went back down to Las Vegas, and my wife looked at the car, and she said, yeah, this is actually really cool, and it's really nice condition. And so I was convinced that I would not find another Screaming Yellow Terminator in this condition. And I knew what this one was. I knew I could travel and go back east and try to look at some others, but they probably wouldn't be this nice. And so I just said, okay, this is the one that I have to have. And I remember something that stuck out to me. I said, so what's the condition of the car? And he said, well, I'll tell you, it has the stock clutch and stock axles, so I haven't been that hard on it. And so I had my little cousin Zach with me there. He came down. He was having a lot of fun looking at it with us too. He was the one who bought the Mach 1 in San Francisco. And I'll put that story in the description too. But anyway, this car, I was like, I just have to have this one. I don't know where else I'd find it. So I went back down with Justin SVT, and we took his blue Mach 1. And it was so fun to see that car again when we were rolling up to it. And of course, there was so much anxiety over the months of negotiation and going back and forth and wanting to get this car. And I remember driving over to the bank with him, and he was like, thank you for not just like doing burnouts and everything in it right now. And I said, hey, this car is going to be better taken care of than anybody else who would have bought it. So we went over to the bank, and I had my cashier's check, and he was kind of like, right in front of me, he's like, how do I know this guy's not going to hose me over? And I'm like, I'm not. Here's a cashier's check. And they're like, well, sir, it really can't happen with a certified check, so I think you're okay. So anyway, then we went over to the DMV, and Justin sat outside with the car while I went in and waited. And anyway, finally got everything that I needed so that I could drive the car home. And I will never forget the feeling of driving away now, having this car, owning it, and just in Las Vegas, dark tinted windows, and the car driving so beautifully. And I wasn't used to the hood being more sleek because the Mach 1 has the big shaker and everything on it. And so I just remember looking over the Cobra hood and just feeling, man, this thing has so much power and it's so nice. It smells new. And so I was just so excited to make our way through Vegas. And I'm like, just get me onto the freeway where we can finally head home and, be in the clear. And I can't explain how fast this car was, and I'm not even taking it to Redline. And just that feeling, I'll never forget. And something else that also added to the first experience with the car was the shift knob that he had on it. So he actually had an MGW one with the snake, and so it had kind of a big rubbery feel to it. It felt pretty good. And I asked him if he had the stock one, and he did, and so he gave me the stock shift knob as well. And I remember looking down and thinking, let's see, was reverse up and over or up and down? Because it just had the snake's logo instead. So anyway, that was a little nerve-wracking at sometimes, making sure. Now, it has a lockout on it, so it shouldn't go into reverse as you're going forward. But anyway, that was just another first impression that I wanted to remember. And as much as I wanted to hear the blower, I was on it a little bit just to hear it because that's a beautiful sound. But at the same time, I wanted to be very safe. I was like, I will not blow this car up. I remember him telling me, okay, I topped it off with 100 octane, so you should be good to go. And that was kind of his insurance policy, I'm sure, thinking I might get in it and just be real hard on it. But we stopped at Love's gas station, and this is kind of, as we're leaving Vegas, that's how we know we're out of Vegas and we're in the clear. So we stopped and checked the tire pressure and got everything good, and we were just so excited to get this car home. So we were so excited to get this car home, and I had it in my garage. And my garage wasn't very nice at the time, but it was the first garage that I had, and I was excited to have it. And so the first thing I wanted to do, which I kind of struggled with, was put in the bumper inserts, because I really liked the way that it looked, the big wide bumper, without it. But adding the Cobra lettering, the black, it was something I just feel like the car needed, because the writing for Cobra is so big. It deserved being there. Then I just went straight into cleanup, and so I, removed the wheels and got everything cleaned up on the inside. And I would still do this to this day. So some of this is newer footage of me, playing around and getting the car clean on the inside. This car had 39,000 miles on it when I bought it, which really isn't a lot, but it's enough to get some road grime and some stuff up in there. Luckily, this car was treated well. I don't see any signs it was ever driven off-road or anything, but you still get small rocks and everything up in the wheel well, so we went ahead and vacuumed everything out and cleaned up the shocks and the struts and everything. So back to more of the original photos here. You can see what the underside of the car looked like. It was a little bit black just from the heat of the road and the tar and everything. So I got that cleaned up really well. And underneath, it was not bad. There's no rust or problems. So I was really happy that it was a dry car. I ran the Carfax. He was the original owner. He bought the car in Washington, but had it trailered because it only had like 50 miles on it by the time it was first inspected. So luckily it lived its life in Las Vegas, dry climate, no rust, and so anyway, it was not that hard to clean it up underneath it. And so I just got some of the turtle wax and the bug and tar remover and everything, got into all the nooks and crannies. And I don't drive the car in the rain, so that works out perfect. It was really nice having a clean car to start with, because as you may have seen on my Mach 1 video and some of the others, I really had to do a lot of fixing up and cleaning. And buying this car pretty much in a spotless condition, just needed a little bit of detailing, was so much better. There's things that you just can't fix on some of the rusted higher mileage ones. But anyway, I even liked going under the car, because I consider cars art, so if you look and spend some time underneath it, some things that you would never even think about, all the body moldings and the stamping and how the car is put together, it's all taken for granted for 99% of the time, just because people are worried about the outside appearance of the car. But I like getting under here and finding all of the castings and the stampings and seeing where it actually says Ford, and cleaning it up. And so I'm the only one who will ever know it's that clean, but this is just the way I like to enjoy the car. And I was so happy with how clean the interior is still to this day. And black was one of my favorite colors for the interior, and all of the '04 Cobras in Screaming Yellow came with black interior, same with the competition orange cars, and so I lucked out because that was the color that I did want with it, and so I was really happy to get a car in such good condition that I will continue to take care of, because my other cars, I'll see things about them, some flaws, and I think, well, I never would have done this to this car. I would have taken better care of it. So to take it already in very good condition and just keep up with it is perfect. So I was enjoying my garage time, and that I was able to keep the Mach 1 and the Cobra. Justin SVT came over a lot. We spent time together, and I was surprised he didn't have one gauge in the car, being it had a Whipple supercharger on it. And so one of my first steps was to put in the AEM fail-safe wideband, and I really like that wideband because it will alert you if you're running lean, and if you wire it up and want to, it'll even cut the ignition on the car so it won't lean out and ruin the engine. There's a lot of cool logging features that you can do with this. You can put your laptop into it and it will record everything for like a 24-hour period, and then it records over itself. So you can get in there and kind of see where your air-fuel ratio was, at what boost level. And so we also ran a vacuum line from the glove box where it already comes in there for the boost gauge. We teed into that and hooked it into the gauge. So really cool gauge, and I don't think they make them anymore. I then went to the Aeroforce interceptor gauge and a fuel pressure gauge here by Speed Hut. Both really good, SVT matching. I got the SVT logo for the AEM failsafe from Stick It Designs. And this gauge is really cool because you can change what you want to read out in the middle, in this case AFR, and then usually you just have the lights bouncing back and forth giving you an analog readout, but you can change this, as I have done. For example, this one is for boost, so I can read boost and AFR. The Aeroforce interceptor gauges light up really nice. I like the blue color. I got that on purpose, even though most people do green to match the gauges. And then going into safety inspections, that's my least favorite thing to do. I watch the car like a hawk. I would prefer pulling the car in and doing all that, and a lot of times they won't let you. And, I had been hassled before on safety inspections. My friends had too. They would point and say, this looks like it's kind of moist, so go replace it. And you had no choice. If you were failed, you had to replace what they told you to. So I pulled the tint off the windows. It was a really nice tint, but it wouldn't pass. So I was doing everything that I could to make sure that the car would be okay going through inspections. And the tires that were on the car, Nitto 555Rs, they were worn almost all the way down, just being drag radials. And so I went and borrowed some bullets from my brother that had some new drag radials on, just so the car would pass inspection. And so at this point, 2013, I really wasn't making a lot of YouTube videos. I had done the clutch video, everything I did on this car, the air-fuel ratio gauge and the fuel pressure and everything, I would start making videos on. But I had a lot of fun doing some walk-around videos, talking about the car. Iron Fist, Lead Foot, I read the full book and made a video walking around the car, so you may have seen that one. And it was just a great example of a car. And, as people ask about yellow, it's not my first choice as something I'm going to buy and drive every single day. I love Screaming Yellow on the car. I love it with the chrome wheels. Everything about it is perfect to me that I love. But it does its job best as kind of a weekend car and something that's special. And I think that's huge when you start having a collector car and people come into the garage and they want to see the car, and it's like a bright color and something that really wows them. But anyway, I was very happy to buy this color for me because it's what I wanted, and I love Screaming Yellow, and I know there's a lot of people who don't like yellow, and that's okay. But as I was kind of saying earlier, it almost became a treasure hunt looking for one of only 299 cars made and then finding it in this condition. So I was very grateful for it, and I'm still grateful to this day to have this car. So I enjoyed a lot of my time in the garage reading about the car, learning up. I wanted to make sure I knew everything that there was to know about supercharged cars. And so the Mach 1 was kind of my daily driver at the time. The Cobra was in the garage on collector car insurance. And oil changes, all the regular maintenance stuff was a lot of fun, just having a nice house to do it in. So I was really happy to have a garage. And so I continued to start to make some YouTube videos here and there. And I really didn't start fully uploading constantly until about 2017 is when I kind of really started making them. And my brother had a Z28 Camaro. He had some Firebirds and some other stuff too. And so we spent a lot of time together, and and enjoyed that. And so soon it was time to sell our first house, and so that was kind of hard, but it was also the right thing to do, and I was ready to move into a bigger garage that I could do a little bit more in. But until then, it was nice just to drive the car around on mornings. I'd go pick up Justin. We'd go and just have nice morning cruises, get some donuts, and we started to build our friendships with other people. We had a car club. We were featured in 5.0 magazine at one point in the back of the magazine. And we got our car club together for that same photo shoot and had a whole bunch of people show up. So it was really cool to see all the different cars and all the different colors and the different variety. And a lot of these cars Justin would end up with again. Those are other stories that you can find on his channel. So if you saw my Mach 1 story, Justin SVT went out and got a Mach 1 not too long after I had gotten mine. And so there was no exception with this one. As soon as I had the Terminator, it wasn't long before he went out and got a beautiful competition orange 2004 SVT Cobra. And so mine, they made 299 coupes. Comp orange, they only made 281. So we were both extremely lucky to have such low production cars and good condition. His only had 30,000 miles on it. His had 29,000 actually when he bought it, and I had 39, so we were about 10,000 miles apart. But we enjoy these cars, and his also has the dark charcoal seats. Like I said earlier, all competition orange and screaming yellow came with that. So our car club kept growing, and we kept enjoying just going out with people. And we never really pushed anybody. We had some other people who got quite upset with us, just wanting to, in their words, I would be a jerk if I had such a fast car like you have. And I said, no, that's not how we are. I like to just enjoy it all and encourage others and just enjoy the cars for what they are. So anyway, we continued to make friendships and have other cars in town that we would be friends with. So we enjoyed some more driving, more meeting friends. We'd love to go up to the airport. They were moving the airport at the time, which is where Justin and I grew up. And so the airport was being moved, and now nobody was up there. So we would take the cars up there and just enjoy nice mornings, go out by the lake. Beautiful sandstone drops here. We just love this area. So just driving around in the mornings was kind of what we used this car for. I really wasn't going to beat on the car too much. And one day we were out just driving in our old neighborhood, and we took this picture on the old street that I used to live in. And next thing we knew, there goes the Granny GT. So we were so excited, we started following it around and got some good pictures of her. So that one for 1998 would be chrome yellow, which is a nice color. And we just loved the screaming yellow as well. And so that was really cool in our old neighborhood to see her go by and then be following her in the Terminator that we always, wanted to have since we were in high school. So more photo shoots up at the parking garage, and the car was just so much fun to have in nice condition. And I'm just a big believer on if you take care of something, it will last a long time. And so I could have solid axle swapped the car, gone and really beaten on it, possibly lost an engine or whatnot, but I think it's important for everybody to enjoy their car how they want to. And don't worry if somebody else is telling you how they think you should be driving your car. Just tell them to get lost. So I knew that I'd have a lot of pressure with a car like this, and I was committed to making sure that I was going to be good about it, not ruin the car, not get myself in any too much trouble. So I bought some nice pieces like some extra connecting rods and some things for collectability, and I really enjoyed taking the car on weekends and driving it around, getting some pictures with it again. And so as we had sold our house, we were really lucky because my brother-in-law let me live with him at the time, and I was looking into getting a storage unit for the Cobra, and he offered to let me have his third car base. So that was really nice of him to do. While I was there, I made a pretty big mistake. I sold my coil covers that said powered by Ford. I wanted the ones that said powered by SVT, so I put the other ones on in the meantime and ordered these from American Muscle. But I later found out that these Ford ones came off the Ford GT supercar, and at the time you had to prove that you had a supercar or they wouldn't sell them to you when they ran low on supply. But anyway, I had our house being built when we extended the garage, and it was a very nice home. And so we got everything ready to go there. And one of the big things that I wanted to do this time around was really make the garage nice. And so I did an epoxy floor, and that was very good. So we went and moved everything in, and it was kind of messy at first, but I was really excited to have a little extra room. I needed to organize a lot of stuff, but it was nice to have a 3-car garage now. And our whole neighborhood, though, was under construction, so we really didn't want to drive the car much because it was just so dusty. So I did kind of feel trapped every once in a while. But we did some nice side parking, and my dad helped us push the toolbox from my brother-in-law's house over to ours because it wasn't that far away. And the chaos of moving is never any fun. But we got it all done, and we even had a 220 volt outlet installed in the house so my air compressor would fit. So I hadn't really put a lot of miles on the car. I bought it with 39,000. Here we were at about 40,000. And just enjoyed having it in my nice garage and doing things my way, keeping it clean. And so it was just a lot of fun to own the car. So now that I had my garage and I was getting it under control and organized and everything was looking good, I started getting into detailing the car some more, just making it nice and clean and enjoying it because I'm working full time. I have some other things going on. And so my brother and I would get into little competitions with each other, and we would say, how dirty is this bolt? How clean is it underneath the front guard, underneath the radiator support? And we'd send pictures back and forth to each other and say, I bet mine's cleaner. And so we had a lot of fun competing with each other. One thing is I had a bearing that went bad. I bought a new auxiliary idler. I could hear it spinning bad. And so I got a new one because the other one looked kind of grungy anyway, but I later found out I could change the bearing, so I made a video on that. But the car was otherwise running really well, and I was very happy with it. Okay, so now it's time to talk about Amber. Who's she? So the 99 Cobra, the 2000 Cobra R, the 2001 Cobra, they all had the amber taillights, which is what were basically export taillights that SVT was putting on their cars to differentiate them a little bit. And I liked the way my car looked with or without them, but I really liked the amber taillights, and I decided I was going to buy a set of them. Now, with these, it's not just put them in, there's some wiring involved, and so I made a very good two-part install video on what you do, how you wire it, the relay, flasher relay that you have to buy, and everything like that. So with these, I really like the way that they looked on the car. Some people think it's a cult following thing and they don't like it, and they say, oh, you guys are Ambros, and they hate on people who spend a lot of money on these taillights because they can cost up to $2,000 now. At the time, I spent about $400 with the harnesses, but it was something that I wanted because I always associated the Cobras with amber taillights. I saw that the Terminator in pre-production, some of the cars showed the amber taillights because they were using '01 Cobra test mules as the body, but other ones made it look like in the pictures that they intended to put them in the car just like SVT was doing. So maybe by just running short on them, being that '03 and '04 were the last of the body style, or maybe expenses or something, why they didn't make it onto the Terminator, I don't know exactly. But I felt like it was something that I wanted to do to the car that I would make sure was not irreversible. So I didn't cut any wires. I just pulled some out of harnesses and did it right. And you'll see all that in the install video. But it's kind of an Easter egg for the car, and it's something that I think brings a little more color to the back of the car, a little dimension to it. So anyway, I really wanted to put the amber taillights in, and so I did. So I'm really happy with the way the car looks. It's a fun conversation piece, and I think it looks great. So let me know in the comments your thoughts on the amber taillights. Some people say they don't like the amber at all. They've actually had a 99 or an '01 Cobra and went to all red or changed it. And some people just say, what's the big deal? Well, the thing is they are Ford only. Because of patents and other things that are out there, you don't see aftermarket ones that look anything near what these ones are. So anyway, I really think that they look good and they add dimension to the car. Again, I think they're an SVT thing that it should have been on there. I think it's a Ford rare part, so maybe my whole screaming yellow, only $299 made kind of thing is kicking in, and I just like to find some of the rare parts. But anyway, that's what's great about these cars. You can buy two identical ones, and two people can change them exactly how they like them and turn them into their own cars. So I think that's what's special about cars. Something about driving around the screaming yellow Cobra and the competition orange Cobra, and then having the amber turn flashes and everything. It's just autumn colors, and I just love that time of year. So that's probably why. I even went and made this meme that says my way and the highway. So I'm going to take both. So going back to what I said a little bit earlier, the fact is this is my car and this is how I want to treat it. And so to me, this is a 600 horsepower street driven show car. Okay. And so other people can get in their cars, do whatever they want, turn them into track cars, cut them up, run them hard, lose engines. I've had several friends even lose their car because they lose the engine in it and can't afford to fix it. And so, I'm okay with everybody doing what they want with their car. But with this car, what I learned is I was going to treat it the way I wanted to. I'd have some fun with it when I felt like it, get on it here and there, but I wasn't going to get involved with the dog-eat-dog races with everybody and, trying to race somebody, then they get mad and they come back after they've modded it and want to keep going with you. And so I learned to enjoy this car for myself the way that I wanted to enjoy it, and that's exactly what it has turned into, is a beautiful car that to this day is still very nice. So I was taking care of the car, and I found that, if you're not daily driving the car and driving it in bad weather and everything, it lasts a lot longer and things don't wear out as bad. So it did need some things. When I bought the car, it had Nitto 555Rs on it, which is a drag radial. The tread wear is 100, so I went to the Mickey Thompson ET Street drag radial, and it has a tread wear of 000. I like to take the wheels off and go have them mounted. That way they don't mess up with your lug nuts or cross-thread anything. And so I took the wheels off, had the tires mounted, told them, please don't do the pound-on weight. I want the sticky weight so it's not messing anything up. And put those on the car, and these are very good. They hook very well with 600 rear wheel horsepower. I have them aired down to about 25 psi. I tried some Torco just to kind of see how it would work, and after one can, it did turn the O2 sensors orange, so that's all I ever have run through the car. And I did notice the car a little bit more sluggish as it's fighting pre-ignition, so it's obviously taking some of the energy content out of the fuel too. But I just kept working on the car, playing around. I got some oil separators, and so the pre-filter, which is this one, they don't really sell anymore, so I got a catch can, and I bought some headers, and I was actually bought these for the Mach 1, and I was planning to put them on the Terminator, but I don't know, I just never really got around to it, so I ended up selling them because I sold them for $1,200. And the car wasn't quite loud enough for me, so I took off the X-Pipe, which was really nice, the MagnaFlow one. I regret selling it. I should have held on to it, but I sold it, put an off-road H on it, which sounds good. Went and had the bung welded in for the wideband so that I could keep the sensor. And just upgraded the car here and there. I really didn't need a tensioner. I wasn't fighting any kind of belt slip or anything like that, but I did upgrade to the Thump RRR tensioner. I just thought it was a nice bigger piece after seeing other people break theirs. And so it went on and it's done great. I haven't had any alignment issues or any problems like that, so I'm really happy with the Thump tensioner. I was hearing a clunking, which turned out to just be a sway bar bushing, so fixed that real quick. Did some radio work in the car, put it back to how it should be, upgraded the FPDM to a modified one, collected some die-cast cars along the way, and also some really cool Terminator specific parts. I found some brand new rods that had never been run before still in the blue packaging, so that was something that I like to pick up. But this has been a very good time of my life. I've really enjoyed living in a nice neighborhood, having a nice family, having nice cars. And so along those lines, you may have seen this meme that came quite popular that says, "Buy more car parts and you'll be sleeping in the garage," to which I said, "Deal." And so where that came from is we were breeding some puppies and we had them in the garage. We were treating them very well. And so we were sleeping in the garage with them to make sure they were okay. And so I made a little makeshift bed here. And so my wife came and snapped a picture of me sleeping in the garage. And so that's where that meme came from. But my Terminator wasn't just fun to enjoy on my own. I really had the most fun as Justin would come over and we would just have garage time and we'd work on little things. He'd tinker on his car because his is bone stock and perfect. And so we had a lot of fun working on the cars and we thought, what a view as you're working on a Terminator to look and see another Terminator. So as you can see, the exhaust on mine was a Mac one I was trying to polish. And the kind of metal that they use on it makes it so it can't be polished, so it looked kind of ugly. It's a 3-inch kit, and so it was a little bulky and a lot heavier than the Borla one that I'll get to in a little bit here. But I was getting really happy that our neighborhood was getting completed so that there was less dust around, and I felt a lot better about driving the car out, and it was a lot easier to keep the car clean that way. So I'd take it out and do some more videos with it. So I got home from driving my Cobra. And I came over and I felt the expansion tank and it was a little bit warmer than usual. So I found out that my intercooler pump was bad, so I ordered a new one. That's what we'll be installing today. So one night I was just going down the freeway and a D1SC Camaro came up and it was open headers, super loud. And I knew it was a 5th gen Camaro, so I didn't really think too much about it. But when we went, I pulled on him, but not like the way that I should. So I found out he had a D1SC supercharger. And anyway, that evening it also had burned up the intercooler pump, so it just stopped working. So I went ahead and put a new one on. So I checked everything, including the fuse, and of course the fuse was fine. It's pretty common around 40,000 miles for these pumps to go, and that's exactly how many miles I had on the car. So ordered a new one, made a good install video on it, showed jumping the system, kind of burping the system, getting it to flow again. And so that would definitely keep those IATs down. So that's why I liked having that Aeroforce interceptor gauge to look at the intake charge temperatures. And also keep an eye on voltage as well. So anyway, went ahead and put the wheel back on that, and everything went really well. Made a really nice video out of it. I'm just running the pump some more here to make sure there's no air bubbles in the system. I also installed the Hilton Boost overlay, so the stock gauge reads up to 10 psi. By putting the sticker over it, you can read higher than that. So I was very careful to take everything out, and you have to trim this little back piece off on the stock needle. So just being me, I went and got a separate one out of a junkyard so that I wouldn't have to do this to my original one, and I kept the original needle. So you can watch the full install video on this and everything that's involved. I shaved this down as well after I cut that little nub off to make sure it wouldn't scratch the gauges or anything like that. So I took a lot of care to do this. And so just putting the overlay sticker on, you just want to get it as straight as you can. And if you notice, there's some overlapping of the sticker as well. And I would go back through and trim all that out, even though the instructions say some of it wasn't necessary. But I lined this up the best that I could to where it looked good. And then you have to bring in a little pump and tee into your factory boost line and then into another gauge. And then as you apply air pressure into it, you can calibrate. And if it's not on, then you'll have to pull the needle off and then move it a little bit and set it back down. So I did that whole calibration process and it came out really good. The gauge was off and then set it back down relatively that much. That's it. That's on the money right there. A little higher. 18. Okay. 20. 20 on the money. 18 on the money. Yeah. So one day a friend came to us and said, hey, I had somebody randomly tell me at a storage unit that they had some Mustang parts to sell. And when they asked what kind, they said Cobra parts. And so he said, yeah, they're probably just, full of it, but let's go see what they have. And so we went over and checked it out, and we were actually shocked to see that it was indeed a full Cobra that had been parted out. And so they said that basically the person fell behind on payments and started selling parts of the car, and then once they couldn't keep up, they walked away. And so the storage place ended up keeping the car itself, and since they didn't have a title, the guy decided to cut the car up. So we made a few trips over there and back to see what parts that he had. And so the friend who was first approached bought most of the parts, and we got away with a few of the others. And so the car was a Redfire convertible, so I got the mirrors and got them painted torch red to match the Mach 1, and they turned out really nice, and so I still have those on the car today. And the rest of the parts that he had, like the independent rear suspension and all that, he was wanting a lot of money for, so at first I turned it down, and then he called me back later saying that he had some things come up. So anyway, made some videos off of all of that as well. Check the video description for that. So I got the Terminator mirrors for my Mach 1 and then picked up the full independent rear suspension, a little bit later. He wouldn't give it to me for a good price in the beginning, but came back and had some other issues. So I was able to get it for a good price and ended up selling most of it, partying it out. Got a nice set of Terminator wheels. Had a friend really hose me over on those. He needed to pass inspection, so he said he'd buy them from me. I went and put them on his car for him, and then he never paid me the full amount. But we spent a lot of time helping other friends as we would find them. It was amazing how many Terminators would show up in our small town. And here's one visiting. This is another Screaming Yellow from up north. So that's not my car. It has the hood pins and everything. But we'd hang out with our friends. We'd wrench on the cars together. We'd fix little idler pulley bearings and, all the little minor stuff. But we really like to work on cars together. We even changed the clutch in this Oxford White Cobra here, just right in the kids' driveway. And you know, it was good that we had done that before, and then we were able to help other people. So if not, they could always watch the videos that we made too. And Justin did a lot more than I did with that. And so every once in a while we'd end up at my house. But we had cool cars in our group, and you'll see a lot of these on the channel too. But when we would go down to Las Vegas, we would stop in at the speed shops, and it was really cool to see like this Sonic Blue Cobra here. We'd see this Torch Red 10th anniversary here, a zinc yellow convertible here, all at the shop waiting to be worked on. There was another Oxford White '03 Cobra, and here's another black one, another one up on the lift. And then when we'd go to the racetrack, we'd see them even parked in the parking lot. So Terminators were a lot more seen than they are now. But the main thing is, after we'd go kind of see the condition of everybody who's really using their cars as race cars, I'd be more and more excited about just keeping mine nice and more of a street car than a race car. But and not to say you can't have a nice race car either. I know plenty of friends who do. But anyway, that was just kind of what I like to do. So anyway, I loved the house that I lived in, but the time came when we decided to sell it. And so my friend lent me his truck and trailer, very nice of him, and we loaded everything up. And since the house that we were building was going to be more of a custom thing, we really didn't have a house to move in the meantime. We lived with the in-laws. And so that was really hard to take everything and just pile it all up. The first few times we moved, we really didn't need a lot of space. Now we needed to rent a 45-foot, RV garage basically to put all of our stuff in there. And then we weren't really even sure on a time frame of when the house would be completed. So luckily the timing was working out with what was going on. Now that would be a lot more difficult. I've had neighbors who are renting near me right now, and they're months or years that they haven't even got their house built. So anyway, Justin was a big help to come over and organize it. I absolutely hate moving. There's just junk everywhere, and you just can't. It just takes forever. So we got this big 45-foot storage unit. We unloaded everything into it. I was a little nervous that things might get stolen, but everything ended up being okay. The Mach 1 I would take with me, and then the Cobra is what I would store, and we'd have to just put it in this garage. Welcome back to episode 3. Just wanted to show you the not so fun parts of moving. Everybody's asking what happened to the car. Here it is, of course. So I have a nice sized storage unit here with everything. I wonder how I even have all of this junk. But as you can see, we got the air compressor, toolbox, and every single thing that was in my house. So this is the not so fun part of doing this project and changing houses, but it's kind of a necessary one. So that's it. Just wanted to give you guys an update and show you kind of the not so fun part of doing this. However, I do have a nice little place here to relax. Got my magazines to read through and chill out. So that's the joy. So this storage unit was pretty close to where I worked, so I'd even go down on my break and spend time with the cars, detail the cars, and it started to get kind of cold, but it wasn't too bad here. It never really freezes where we live. It just got a little bit on the cold side. So all my junk was in here, and I just had to put up with it. So I would have fun on the computer and make little drawings and Photoshop my cars into them. My wife worked really hard on every detail of the house and what we were going to change, what we were going to modify, and we added a casita for family to live in and did all kinds of things to it. So eventually it started coming along, and we were really excited. We missed our old house so much, we made sure that the flooring was the same. And some of those things were really difficult because they didn't offer them anymore. We had to special order, and the more that we were out of our house, the more we realized how much we loved our house. And so anyway, it was hard to do, but I was going to make sure the garage was good for us too. So this time around we went with what was called a polycuramine. It's like an epoxy, but it was supposed to be more chip resistant. I didn't have any chipping or problems with mine in the past, but I just wanted to get the best product that I could. So this garage was a little bit oversized. It took us a little bit more product than it said it should. So it ended up taking double, and I don't know if that's just because the cement was new. We waited the 30 days or however long you're supposed to wait on new concrete, but it did take a lot more product than it said it would call for, but it came out really well, and I remember how nice it smelled when it was done and how fun it was to walk on the old house. As soon as I pulled out of the driveway or out of the garage, it left the rubber from the drag radials on it. It stuck to them, so even though I waited the time it said to wait, I took no chances with this one. Put some blankets down and parked the Cobra on that, but I was so happy to get the Cobra into its proper home again. So we let everything cure the full time, and then this coating has worked really well. I have install videos and review videos on it if you want to check it. I'll try to put that in the video description too. And the garage, as you can see, was extra wide, so even with the toolbox drawers all the way open, it doesn't even come near the car. I put the air compressor at the front of the garage instead of dragging hoses, so I learned a few things, and that's the good part about moving on to newer houses and everything, is you learn from the old ones. And so I was still able to keep the Cobra really nice, get it spotless, daily drive the Mach 1. I'd meet friends at work, and one day a Terminator just showed up and we became good friends, and he had this car for a while. It was a higher mileage one, but an awesome car. And then we had another friend show up with an Oxford White Cobra, and so it was fun to put all these cars together. And again, being a smaller town, you don't see a lot of Terminators, so it was a lot of fun. We'd go out to warehouses and do some photo shoots where we could see the car in the background. And I just loved the yellow and how bright it was, and so I was, as always, happy to have my Screaming Yellow Cobra. It would just kind of fit my personality, and it was doing pretty well for the YouTube channel. We had some installs coming up on it. The next thing that I would be working on this car would be the Borla exhaust system. So my friend had melted a piston on his Cobra. We have install videos. We have videos of removing his entire engine and everything, but we went ahead and he sold me his Borla cat back, and I polished it up and put it on. So these are the Borla Stingers, also known as the S-Type, and so it's not as loud as the Attacks. So I was just going to polish up kind of the end part of it, but ended up doing the whole thing once I got involved, and it came out really nice. I really liked taking something that was so nasty and just cleaning it and polishing it and really giving it a nice look. Okay, so there's the finished product. You can see polished versus not, how beautiful you can make this exhaust look. That's first round of polish, so I'm sure there's some fine tuning that can be done from here. But that basically shows you how to polish your exhaust. And if you haven't seen my epoxy / polycuramine video, I'd take a look at that because it makes cleanup a breeze. It just wipes right up. Now, something about the exhaust for the Terminator, since it has independent rear suspension, the exhaust comes under the axles, and so it looks really good from behind the car. You can actually see the exhaust. So, you know, that Mac catback looked pretty bad. It now looked fantastic. initial impressions on this compared to the Mac catback. It sounds similar in a lot of ways, which I'm happy about because I like the way that the Mac was. And I think a lot of that has to do with the H-pipe, so it gives it that muscle car rumble, and so that's still there. When you have this catback, this Borla one with the X-pipe, it has that rasp right at 2,500 RPM. And this actually is perfect because it's 2,500 RPM is a really good sound. I'll give you a little sound of it right here. So it's actually a deeper, nicer sound, in my opinion, than with the X-pipe. Terminators are prone to burning up alternators because of the heat and overspinning them. They're really built for a V6 Mustang. And so I got the big 3-wire upgrade kit and installed that. Made some good videos on that as well, and I'll put the link to that in the description. But I upgraded to the MechMan alternator, 240 amp, big boy, big 3-wiring upgrade. And that's just something that you have to do. The alternator, again, is basically from a V6 Mustang. So that's a pushrod engine. It's only designed to spin to about 5,000, 6,000 RPM max. So it overkills it on the Cobra, especially down next to the exhaust manifolds where they get hot. So anyway, I did a full install video with all those steps, and it turned out really well. Everything looked good, charging at 14.2 volts consistently. Big 3 upgrade really helped, so I just had to go test it out, and found a 550 supercharged Jaguar to do that with. Even had the jump on me on that one. But anyway, really just enjoy this car. I do all the time. I use it more for a weekend cruiser. It's something that's special. Terminators are very special cars. They're only going to be worth more and more each day. And you know, to have one in a low production number, to have one in such good condition, I'm just happy as ever with it. So, you know, I don't go out and race it real hard all the time like others might, and that's okay. I'm not saying that that's wrong for them to do either, but that's just the way that I choose to take care of mine. Now, it's common on the Terminators for the diff to leak even when they don't have a lot of mileage, just from how they were put together in the factory. So mine was no exception. About 42,000 miles, I noticed there was a little bit of moisture coming out of the bottom, so I went and upgraded to the Ford girdle. This is like the same one that I have on the Mach 1, just intended for the independent rear suspension. And so this is a really nice piece, especially since mine did have at least the diff cover brace, but even under some axle hop or some good power, you can crack the thinner diff cover that the car comes with, so it's a good upgrade. Anyway, that's the story up to this point. The story continues, and if anything, check the video description where I have playlists with all the videos I've made on this car, installation videos, review videos, cruising videos, all kinds of stuff. And if you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe. As always, thanks for watching, and be safe out there.